So our first topic is, are values subjective or objective? Objectivists believe that values like goodness exist on their own, regardless of whether anyone values them. They think that certain things are inherently good and we recognize them because of their intrinsic quality. For example, Plato saw the good as something divine and perfect, existing independently of human thought. Similarly, G.E. Moore compared the good to the color yellow, suggesting it's a simple quality we recognize through intuition. So, example, imagine a beautiful painting. Even if no one is there to appreciate it, an objectivist would say the painting is still beautiful on its own. On the other hand, subjectivists think that values depend on what people desire. They believe something is good because we value it, not because it has intrinsic goodness. Example, think about ice cream flavors. Your favorite flavor is good to you because you like it. If you prefer chocolate and someone else prefers vanilla, there's no absolute best flavor. It's all based on individual preferences. So, in short, subjectivists see values like we see favorite ice cream flavors. Goodness is relative to personal taste. So, kung sa objective, we recognize something as good because of their intrinsic quality. So, bago mo pa masabi na good ang isang bagay, good na talaga siya on its own. Nag-i-exist na talaga siya na good siya. While in subjective, we recognize something as good because we value it. It's our individual preference na good to, not because of their intrinsic quality.
Tatalakayin natin ang tanong na, are values subjective or objective? Ibig sabihin, ang mga values pa ay depende lang sa kagustuhan ng tao o meron bang mga values na mahalaga kahit hindi natin ito hinahangad. May 4 na pangunahing pananaw ang tinutukoy dito. Ang una ay ang synergistic view. Pinagsasama nito ang subjective at objective na aspekto ng values. Ang ibig sabihin, may mga bagay na mahalaga sa atin dahil hinahangad natin. Pero may mga values din na maaaring mahalaga universally o para sa lahat. At ang pangalawa ay ang subjectivism. Ayon dito, ang values ay resulta lang ng ating mga pagnanasa. Kung ano ang gusto natin, iyon ang mahalaga para sa atin. At ang pangatlo ay ang weak objectivism. Ang pananaw na ito ay nagsasabi na hindi lahat ng gusto natin ay mabuti. Ipinapakita nito na may pagkakaiba ang pagnanasa at tunay na goodness o kabutihan. At ang pang-4 ay ang ideal desire concept. Ito ay isang solusyon na nagpapakilala sa isang hypothetical being o ideal desire na walang bias at may kumpletong kaalaman. Siya ang magiging basihan ng kung ano ang good at bad para sa lahat. Sa synergistic view, pinagsasama ang subjective at objective na aspekto ng values. At para sa pananaw na ito, ang una ay ang role of desires and values. Ang mga pagnanasa o desires natin ay mahalaga para magkabalyo ang isang bagay. Kasi kung wala tayong desires, hindi rin natin mararamdaman kung ano ang halaga o valuable. Example of values and these values. Ang values ay ang karaniwang hinahangad nating mga bagay tulad ng pleasure, knowledge, freedom, friendship, at health. Ito ang mga bagay na itinuturing na valuable. At para naman sa these values, ito ay ang mga pain, suffering, boredom, loneliness, disease, at syempre ang death. Ito ay mga bagay na hindi natin hinahangad at tinatawag na these values. At para naman sa subjective and objective elements, dito kinikilala ng ilang values ay subjective o personal dahil nakadepende sa desires ng tao. Pero may mga bagay na maaaring objectively valuable o mahalaga kahit walang tao ang maghangad nito. Sa subjectivism, ang values ay nakadepende lang sa ating personal na pagnanasa. Kung ano ang gusto natin, iyon ang may value para sa atin. Para naman dito ay may mga ilang pangunahing punto para dito at para mas maintindihan natin ay una ay ang values as desires. Ipinapakita nito na ang values ay nag-i-exist dahil may desires tayo. Kung ano ang gusto ng isang tao, iyon ang nagkakaroon ng halaga para sa kanya. Ayon kay philosopher Ralph Barton Perry, ang value daw ay object of interest. Kung ano ang hinahangad o kinagigiliwan ng isang tao, iyon ang nagiging valuable sa kanya. At ang value intensity naman, ayon sa subjectivism, mas malakas ang pagnanais para sa isang bagay, mas mataas ang value nito para sa isang tao. At panghuli ay ang no distinction in desires, walang tama o maling pagnanasa dito. Lahat ng hinahangad ay may value, kahit ano pa ang nature ng desire na iyon. Weak objectivism, distinguishing between desires and goodness. Sa weak objectivism, sinasabi na may pagkakaiba ang pagnanais o desire sa kung ano ang tunay na mabuti. Hindi lahat ng bagay na gusto ng isang tao ay talagang good o mabuti. Ito yung sinasabing good versus desired. Hindi ibig sabihin na kapag may gusto tayo, good na ito. May mga bagay na hinahangad ng tao, pero hindi ito talagang mabuti. Ang example o halimbawa nito ay si Joanne ay may desire para sa pleasure machine na nagbibigay sa kanya ng kaligayahan. Ang pleasure machine ay sa loob ng makina. Mararanasan niya ang lahat ng bagay na nagpapaligay sa kanya, ngunit nawawala ang kanyang ugnayan sa tunay na buhay at realidad. Itong halimbawa ay ginagamit upang pag-isipan kung sapat ba ang kasiyahan para maging makabuluhan ang buhay o kung may mas mahalagang mga bagay na dapat pahalagahan siya. Pero hindi ito makakabuti sa kanya. O si Jen naman ay gustong sumali sa Satanic Society para sa masamang gawain naman. Kahit gusto niya ito, hindi ito objectively good. Dahil ang Satanic Society naman ay isang halimbawa na ginagamit upang ipakita ang mga kagustuhan o gawain na sa tingin ng karamihan ay mali o masama. Ginagamit ito ng mga objectivists upang ipakita na hindi lahat ng kagustuhan o desire ay mabuti, kahit pa matindi ang pagnanasa para dito. Ang objective goodness naman ay sa pananaw na ito, may mga bagay na mabuti para sa lahat, kahit hindi ito hinahangad ng bawat isa. Halimbawa, ang pagkakaroon ng kaibigan o kaalaman ay mahalaga para sa lahat kahit hindi ito gusto ng ilan. The ideal desire concept. Definition of the ideal desire. This concept introduced the ideal desire, a hypothetical being who is impartial and fully knowledgeable. This being could judge what's genuinely good or bad without personal bias. Ang good and bad. For good, ang example ay the ideal desire choose is automatically considered good. Ito ay ang pagtulong sa mga nangangailangan o helping those in need is seen as good because it promotes well-being and compassion for others. At para naman sa bad ay anything the ideal desires avoids or reject is bad. pagkasangkot sa pang-aapi or engaging in bullying is considered bad because it causes harm and suffering to others regardless of personal desires. At para naman sa goal of philosophy, ang pag-aaral ng philosophy, lalo na ang moral philosophy, ay makakatulong para maging impartial tayo at magdesisyon ng mas unbiased. This study aims to bring us closer to the ideal desires perspective on value.
Good day everyone, my name is Kim Angelique R. Custudio, one of the reporter of Group 3. So my topic is all about the relation between values and morality. So when we talk about values and morality, we are trying to understand why something is considered right or wrong. So first, let me discuss what value is. Values are the things we find important in life, like happiness, freedom, honesty, and health. These guide our decisions and help us figure out how we should act. Or in other words, ito yung mga bagay na binibigyan natin ng kahalagahan o importansya sa ating buhay. Ito ang mga paniniwala o prinsipyong gumagabay sa ating mga desisyon at kilos. So, values can come from many places, such as family, culture and religion, and personal experience. So, first, yung family. The values your parents or caregivers teach you. For example po dito, yung tinuruan ka ng mga magulang mo na maging honest sa lahat ng bagay kahit na mahirap. So, as time goes by, you start to value honesty. Kaya, ayun, kung ano yung na-imply mo sa self mo, simula bata ka pa lang. Then, next is culture and religion. So, what society or faith says is important, like respect the elders or helping those in needs. For example nga dito, yung sa culture natin na lagi nating dapat galangin ang nakakatanda sa atin. So habang lumalaki ka, nai-imply mo na, binavalue mo na sa self mo na lagi nang galangin ang mga nakakatanda, lagi magsabi ng po at opo at lagi magmamano. Then next is personal experience. What you learn from your own life and the things that have happened to you. For example nito, you have a friend na lagi kang pinagtatanggol sa mga taong tinitreat ka unfairly. So, dahil nga sa experience mo na yon, natutunan mo kung gaano ka-importante ang loyalty. Kaya ngayon, binavalue mo na yung loyalty. So, these values are important because they guide your behavior. If you know what you value, you are better able to make decisions that aligns with your beliefs. So, next is morality. Morality is the system that helps us figure what is right and wrong. It's like our internal compass for good and bad actions. Morality is based on the values we hold, but it goes beyond just thinking about what's important to acting on it. In other words, ito yung sistema ng mga paniniwala o prinsipyo na nagsasabi kung ano ang tama o mali, mabuti o masama sa ating mga gawain o desisyon. Sa madaling salita, ang moralidad ay ang gabay natin sa tamang pamumuhay at pakikitungo sa kapwa. Paano nga ba nag-work ang morality? Morality helps us decide things like, is it wrong to lie? Is it good to help others? Or should we treat people fairly? Yan. These questions are all about moral decisions. Morality is not just about following rules. It's about understanding why certain actions are good or bad and making choices based on what we think is right. So, for example po, you were taking a test and by accidentally nakita mo yung answer ng kaibigan mo or katabi mo. And you know cheating is wrong, but you also don't want to fail the test. So morality helps you think through this situation by guiding you to the right action na no cheating or do not cheat based on your values na honesty and fairness. So, there are two main views on morality and values that help explain why something is considered right or wrong. So, first, yung moral right and wrong as intrinsic values. So, some philosophers like Immanuel Kant believe that certain actions like telling the truth or not stealing are intrinsically good. Meaning they are good just because they are morally right, not because they bring any benefits like happiness or peace. For example, think of the rule, don't lie. According to this view, hindi ka dapat magsisinungaling dahil lamang ito ang tamang gawin. Kahit na ang pagsisinungaling ay pwedeng makapagpagaan ng loob ng isang tao o kaya ay makapagpasaya. Dahil nga ang pinakamahalaga dito ay yung nasa mismong pagiging totoo at hindi nito kailangan ng ibang bagay o dahilan para maging mahalaga. Another view, yung moral right and wrong based on moral values. On this view, some people believe that actions are right or wrong because they led to good outcomes. They think we should do the right thing because it brings benefits like happiness, health, or peace in society. For example, let's take honesty again. In this view, telling the truth is good because it builds trust between people and creates harmony in society. The act of being honest is right because it helps achieve valuable goals like making people feel safe and building strong relationship. So, sa madaling salita, ang view ni Immanuel Kant at ng iba pang philosopher that actions like telling the truth are good in themselves no matter kung ano yung kalabasan or kung ano yung maging outcome. Then, the other view says that actions are good if they led to positive results like happiness or trust.
Let's move forward to the schema of the moral process. It is a framework that explains how values guided human behavior from the base level of rational justification to the final stage of actions. It's a step-by-step process that integrates principles of ethics into decision-making. The first step is the rational justification. This is the foundation of the moral process. It refers to the reasons or justifications behind our ethical beliefs and decisions. These justifications must be grounded in three key conditions. The first one is the impartiality. Decisions should not be biased or self-serving. They should be made with fairness. The second one is freedom. It is the ability to make choices freely without coercion. And lastly is the knowledge. We must be well informed and understand the implications of our decisions. Example of rational justification is, imagine a judge deciding a court case. For the ruling to be ethical, it must be impartial, not favoring one side, made freely without external pressure and based on all available evidence. The second step is the forms of life. This refers to the cultural and social systems that influence our beliefs and practices. Different societies and cultures have different values and ways of organizing life, and this deeply influence how we view morality. Example of forms of life is, in some cultures, collectivisms or putting the community's needs first is prioritized, while in others, individualism or emphasizing personal autonomy is more important. These forms of life shape how people perceive moral values like duty or freedom. The third step is the values. Values are the things we considered important or desirable, like justice, health, or happiness. Values guiding us in determining what is good or worthy of pursuits in life. Some values are intrinsic, valuable in themselves, like love, freedom, while others are instrumental, valuable because they lead to other good outcomes, like money. Let's move to the fourth stage, principles. Principles are moral rules or guidelines derived from values that help answer normative questions such as what ought I to do? Principles are more concrete and are used to apply values in real-world situations. For example, a principle like equality before the law is derived from the value of justice. This principle demands that everyone be treated equally in legal proceedings, regardless of their background. The fifth stage is the judgments. At this stage, individuals must weigh principles against each other to make a judgment. Sometimes, conflicting principles may arise, requiring careful consideration. Good judgment is based on your own values, beliefs, and principles. An error in applying the principles can lead to moral failure. So, ang basic example dito sa judgment is one student deciding whether to report a friend who cheated on exam. The student values honesty. Naniniwala siya na mali ang pangangopya. But also, she value loyalty to her friend, not wanting to betray his or her friend. The two principles, honesty and loyalty, are in conflict here. So, titimbangin mo at susubukin dito ang iyong prinsipyo. Let's go to the sixth stage, decisions. After judgments are made, individuals take decisions. Decisions are the actual resolutions made based on judgment and principles. Failure at this level could lead to guilt if someone feels they made a reverse choice that contradicts their moral principles. Example of this is if someone witnesses a death and decides not to report it, despite knowing it is wrong, they might feel guilty later for failing to act according to their moral judgment. And finally, lastly, the seventh stage is the actions. Actions are the ultimate results of the moral process. These are the steps taken based on prior decisions. Failure in actions due to weaknesses of will might also lead to guilt, especially if someone regrets not following through with their moral decisions. Example, a person might decide to stand up against bullying. Ayan yung una niyang desisyon, based on their value of justice, but in the moment, they might fail to act due to fear or social pressure. This failure can lead to feeling of guilt because their action didn't match their moral judgment.
So, bakit nga ba mahalagang pag-aralan ang relationship ng values and morality? So, dahil understanding how values relate to morality help us become better at making decisions about right and wrong. By knowing what we value and why, we can follow the right principles and make choices that not only feel right but also are truly right, whether for us, for ourselves, or for the good of others. So overall, values are the core of our moral beliefs, shaping the principles that guide us in making decisions about right and wrong. These values comes from our culture, experiences, and personal beliefs. While we may all have different ways of justifying our values, the process of using values to guide moral decisions is common to everyone. Each step in this moral process, values, principles, judgments, decisions, and actions, help us translate our deepest beliefs into the choices we make every day.
What life is worth living for? Did you ask yourself sometimes if your life is worth living for? or it's worth it to fight your life despite of a lot of challenges, failures that we are experiencing right now. It is still worth it. Some of us thinking that life is worth living for if we have a complete family, plenty of money, stable job and businesses, big house, luxury car and bags, and branded clothes. That is the perfect life that we want to be, to make it worth it. But the question is, are these really the reason to make our life worth living for? According to Aristotle, all people seek is happiness. All we want is to be happy in the life, but sometimes it's hard to be happy. What is happiness? Happiness is state of being happy. Is a complete and sufficient good. Because if we do a good thing, we feel happy, and we can explain the happiness that we feel. For example, if we help other even in a small thing, we feel happy and relief because it is a big thing for them, what we did. Happiness is also known as eudaimonia, the state or condition of good spirit. Because if we have a good spirit like good attitude, behavior, personalities, and so on, that means we are happy. According to Aristotle, happiness consists in achieving through the course of a full lifetime all the goods, health, wealth, knowledge, friend, etc. That leads to a perfection of human nature and the enrichment of human life. Objectivism of Plato and Aristotle. According to them, objectivism distinguishes happiness from pleasure and speak of a single ideal for human nature. Because our pleasure led to happiness eventually if we continue doing it. For example, it is a pleasure to go to church every Sunday since we always heard the gospel and apply it to our life. By that, we will be encouraged to go to church, and that makes us not only to be a good person but also to make us feel happy, satisfied, and fulfilled. In objectivism, a single idea connecting human nature to happiness is that happiness is achieved through the pursuit of individual life and happiness. For example, consider a person who chooses to pursue a career that aligns with their passion and skills. By setting and achieving personal goals, cultivating meaningful relationships, and engaging in creative work, they find fulfillment and joy. This reflects the objectivist view that the true happiness stems from the conscious pursuit of one's values and the rational choices that support individual well-being. But if we don't reach the human nature ideal, that means we are failed in happiness. Plato said that happiness is harmony of the soul. Plato believed that enjoyment development from well-ordered mind in which reason, spirit, and desire were in harmony. In his opinion, this harmony leads to a virtuous existence in which people behave in line with their genuine nature and reason. Plato believed that genuine happiness, rather than simple pleasure or external achievement, required reaching the inner balance. It's a profound philosophy that highlights the value of inner virtue and balance in seeking a fulfillment in life. Subjectivism, the contemporary bias in the favor of value pluralism, that is the view that there are many ways of finding happiness. According to Holtz, let a thousand flowers bloom. That leads to subjectivism. What is value pluralism? Is the concept that may diverse value, belief, and way of life can live together, and that these value are frequently unrelated, which mean they cannot be simply ranked or compared to one another. This view claims that there is no single ultimate value or way of life that is fundamentally superior to all others. Sabi nga nila, let 1,000 flowers blooms, because we have our own way of happiness. In subjectivism, their version of happiness states that happiness is in the eyes of beholder. You are happy as you believe you are, no more, no less. The notion is a personal opinion rather than a description. I am the only one who can determine or know whether I am pleased. If I'm happy, I'm pleased. Even if everyone else dislike my lifestyle. Happiness has a little to do with virtue. Also because of our social nature, we normally feel better about ourselves when we are ethical. For example, I like watching K-drama because it is one of my source of happiness. I don't care if others think it is corny to watch K-drama, because the only thing important here in subjectivism is the joy or happiness that K-drama gives me, or what I feel if, kung nanonood ako ng K-drama. According to John Rawls' version of its plan of life, it's a conception of happiness. Individual can choose from a variety of life plan, but it is crucial that the plan is integrated and successful in achieving personal goals. This concept the emphasize the individual autonomy in selecting objective and plans, making it primarily subjective, even if an individual should make a life plan. Rawls argued that the true happiness and fulfillment come from being able to articulate and pursue a coherent plan of life that reflects one's values and aspiration. This approach aligns with his broader ethical framework, which prioritizes justice and fairness. He believed that ethical consideration should support individuals in their pursuit of well-being, allowing for diverse conception of happiness. According to him, there are primary goods that are necessary to any worthwhile life plan. This is right and liberties, power and opportunities, income and wealth, self-respect, health and vigor, intelligence and imagination.
So, hi, I am Analea Elumboy and ang i-report ko naman is all about my part sa The Good Life. And according nga sa libro, para daw masabi natin na worth living yung life natin ngayon is, ang nafe-feel lang natin is pure happiness, or yung namamayani sa buhay natin ngayon is pure happiness. And sa libro din, doon din makikita natin na yung iba't ibang views ng theory or iba't ibang views ng mga philosophers about happiness. So, nandun nga yung objectivist view, subjectivist, and yung combination ng dalawang yun. And yung napunta naman sa akin is yung view ni na Richard Kraut and ni John Stuart Mill. So, una natin i-discuss yung kay Richard Kraut. So for Richard Kraut, there are two concepts of happiness. First is the psychological happiness, then the well-being or the eudaimonic happiness. So for psychological happiness, ang sinasabi lang dito is that it is more on the subjective well-being of a person, and yung happiness is considered as emotional or mood na nanggagaling sa sense of pleasure natin or commitment. So, tayo, yung pipili or nasa sarili natin ang pagpili or pag-decide sa mga gagawin nating bagay na ang maidudulot sa atin is kasiyahan or happiness. So, yung pag-feel natin ng happiness sa psychological happiness is agad-agad siya, and for short term lang natin siyang mafe-feel. So, ang example dito is yung yung happiness na nafe-feel natin pagkatapos natin kumain sa favorite restaurant or cafe natin. And another is yung happiness natin kapag nakatanggap tayo ng compliment sa ibang tao or sa gusto nating tao. And yung third naman is yung happiness na nafe-feel natin kapag nagsasama-sama tayo ng pamilya natin sa siesta time. So, for the second concept of happiness, according to Richard Kuralt, yun nga, yung eudaimonic happiness, it is more on the objective side, and nakaka-feel tayo ng happiness or nakukuha natin yung happiness natin sa buhay once na na-fulfill natin yung potential natin sa buhay and nagli-lead na siya sa morally good life. And dito nga, hindi na lang basta sa experience or circumstances ng life natin na kakamit yung happiness, but in our own values and virtue, doon na natin nakakamit yung happiness natin sa buhay. Na kung saan yun na nga yung nagdudulot ng worth living na life sa atin. So, some example of eudaimonic happiness is yung happiness na nafe-feel natin kapag na-pursue natin yung career na gustong-gusto natin sa buhay, and nag-commit tayo sa self-improvisation through learning, and then yung nalagpasan natin yung mga hirap sa buhay kagaya nung mga malalalang sakit, ganon. And yung sa eudaimonic happiness, addition lang na info, it is more on long-term na happiness yung nafe-feel natin, and yung mga goal natin sa buhay is that long-term din siya compare sa psychological happiness. So, para mas maintindihan natin yung concept ni Kraut, is pag-usapan natin yung happiness machine. So, for the concept of happiness machine, so a happiness machine is a machine na doon nagsama-sama yung pure happiness, pleasure, and satisfaction. And once na pinlog in na siya sa isang tao, ang mafe-feel na lang ng tao na yon is pure happiness talaga. And yung naiisip na lang niya is pure happiness lang na walang problema and such. So, masasabi ba natin na masaya talaga siya sa buhay niya? Worth living ba yung buhay na yon? And once kasi na pinlogged out na yon sa kanya, babalik na siya sa dati niyang buhay. So, masasabi ba natin na masaya talaga siya nung pinlog in or nung ginamit niya yung happiness machine na yon? So, for the psychological happiness na view, masasabi natin na yes, based on his or her experience, masaya siya. And short term lang naman yung happiness na naramdaman niya since nung pin-log out nga is balik na naman sa dati yung buhay niya, na doon naiisip na naman niya yung mga problems or yung nafe-feel na naman niya yung mga hindi magagandang emotions sa buhay. But on the other side, yung sa eudaimonic happiness, masasabi natin hindi ganon kasaya or hindi masaya yung magiging buhay once na nag-base lang tayo sa happiness machine. So, for some of us siguro, tatanggapin or i-accept natin yung concept ng happiness machine sa buhay natin, lalo na if nag-base tayo sa mga hindi magagandang experience sa buhay natin. But for some, i-reject yun, yung concept ng pleasure or happiness machine, lalo na at hindi lang naman happiness yung habol natin sa buhay natin. Meron din tayong hinahabol kagaya ng mas authentic na buhay, mas realistic na buhay, rather than more on imaginary lang yung dulot ng kasiyahan sa buhay natin. So, according din sa book, meron ngang vital things na kinakailangan para masabi natin na worth living yung life natin. So, una doon is yung action. So, sa action, required siya, lalo na yung action natin sa sarili natin. Kasi hindi naman ibang tao yung gagawa ng mga bagay-bagay na makakapagpasaya sa atin. And sa action, ito yung nag-accomplish tayo ng mga bagay-bagay kahit na alam natin na may risk na siya. And doon natin masasabi kasi na yung buhay ko ngayon is worth living, hindi kagaya ng, or hindi basta bara-bara lang na buhay. So, next or second vital thing is yung freedom. So, sa action kasi, di ba, may sarili tayong choices and may sarili tayong decision sa buhay. And doon papasok yung freedom natin. Freedom of choice or freedom natin na mag-decide, na mamili ng mga bagay-bagay na sa tingin natin, yun yung magdudulot sa atin ng happiness, and yun yung makakatulong makakatulong sa pag-abot natin ng worth living na life. So, third is yung character. So, para magkaroon tayo ng worth living na life, kailangan muna natin magpakatotoo sa sarili natin. Or, we need to be something and to be someone. Kailangan natin magkaroon ng sarili natin pagkakakilanlan para din mas masabi natin na eto yung deserve kong buhay. And dito, makikita natin na alam natin sa sarili natin na eto yung deserve na buhay para sa akin. Or ito yung mga bagay na nagbibigay sa akin ng happiness, kaya eto yung gagawin ko. And dito natin makikita na kilala ko yung sarili ko na eto dito nakalinya yung worth living para sa akin. And last na vital thing is yung relationship. So, according sa libro, kailangan siya para ma-feel natin yung totoong worth living na life or happiness sa buhay. So, kailangan daw nating magmahal and kailangan din naman na mahalin tayo ng ibang tao. So, kailangan natin sa buhay natin para masabi natin worth living siya na mag-care sa ibang tao at yung kailangan din naman natin ng isang tao na mag-care sa atin ng unconditional or unconditionally. So, doon natatapos yung view ni Richard Kraut pagdating sa happiness or sa good life. Next naman is yung kay John Stuart Mill. So for John Stuart Mill, happiness is not a life of raptures, but a moment in life wherein we feel a few of pains, but more on pleasures. So, according sa meaning na yon ni John Stuart Mill ng happiness, masasabi natin na bago matawag ang isang buhay na worth a living, kailangan ang nafe-feel natin or ang namamayani sa buhay natin is pleasure and freedom rather than pain. So, kailangan ang namamayani sa buhay natin is yung satisfaction and contentment, hindi yung mga problems na nag-a-arise sa buhay natin. So, kapag mas marami ang pleasure or happiness na nafe-feel natin sa buhay, matatawag natin siyang good life or a worth living life, and evil naman kung ang mas nararamdaman natin sa buhay is yung mga pains, problems, and such na dinudulot sa atin ng buhay. So, sabi nga sa last part, happiness is an act of freedom, living relation, moral character, wherein an individual is not plagued by any guilt or anxiety, but is blessed with more of peace and satisfaction in life. So, note that do not be confused with satisfaction and complacency, but rather connect satisfaction with the word contentment with what you have right now. So for Mill's view, you must decide on the things that will make you happy and that will give you a worth living life.